What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and today we're talking about Astro Bot on the PlayStation 5 because I have been playing it, and it is extremely good. From the graphics, to the gameplay, to the nostalgia, to the level design, to just so much about it. This may be perhaps the best PS5 game ever released, and I feel like Sony badly needed it. I feel like a lot of PlayStation fans this year have kind of been waiting in anticipation for that next big first-party game, because technically think of it, when it comes to PS5 exclusives actually made by Sony themselves, this year all we had was Concord, which is already officially dead, and The Last of Us Remastered, and I'm pretty sure that's it. So people have been saying, okay, why do I own this $500 piece of plastic if we're not going to have big, cool Sony games on it? This game is everything. It fully delivers on the promise of a next-gen experience that's not just trying to chase freaking photorealistic graphics. But let me break down the goods and the bads. I hope you're having a great day, and if you could please, give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. So let's begin with the big question, which is, what is Astro Bot? So technically this is the third game in the series. I've played all of them. They started back in 2018. Then we had Astro's Playroom, which was a launch PS5 game, but this one feels different. It feels better. It feels more fleshed out. So in Astro Bot, you're flying along in your big PS5 spaceship, and an alien steals some parts. And so now you have an excuse to go on an extra long adventure. You go from galaxy to galaxy on these cool platforming adventures, but they're all different themes, from space to platforming to more puzzle-focused planets, and also I love the fact that from deserts to ice storms, everything looks fantastic. I think some studios have this unhealthy obsession with the idea that things gotta look like real life, and especially Sony. I think Sony has this weird inkling that a game will sell better if it's 8K graphics and freaking every pixel of the eyeball shows up. This game, I'm glad it's going back to those PS1 roots. It's a game that is just fun instead of trying to be extra realistic. It's beautiful because it has such a cool stylized look. So as you're going through this, from planet to planet, it's not just about beating levels and finishing a boss. Instead, it's about the hidden stuff. So every single environment, every area we go to has a bunch of hidden bots, a bunch of little dudes that are tucked off to the side. You'll find them on top of stuff or out of the way, and you need to find them. So it's very much like the way Super Mario 64 worked, where you're collecting stars by doing objectives and do enough of them, and it unlocks the next area. And I feel like this works exceptionally well because the actual controls of Astro Bot are incredibly simple. Like, if you actually think about it, there's only two buttons. Jump, and you hold the button to hover a bit, and then punch, and then you can hold the button to do like a spin attack. And then there is the ability button. So in each of these different galaxies, there is a primary power. It varies a bit, but a lot of times it's stuff like the suit that lets you magnetize stuff. There's a suit that lets you become a rocket and fly up in the air or boost forward. There's a suit that I personally loved a lot that just lets you swim. And it was so cool to just swim around and find all sorts of hidden objectives and stuff like that. I am getting giddy because something about this game very much feels evocative of that ancient greatness of the PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 2 especially. Like, Sony's good now as well. I'm not saying the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5 were like dud years, but back when 3D games first started to exist, there was kind of this raw love, this raw creativity of people and developers trying to just figure out the mechanics of how do you make a level fun? How do you tell the player where they're supposed to go and stuff like that? And so conveying that, it takes a special extra vocabulary. And I felt like in Astro Bot, they nailed that design again. It feels like that cool essence of every time you find stuff, every time you purposefully go in the wrong direction, it's thrilling to find a different cool secret. Now, I especially like the fact that in each of the worlds, it'll tell you how many bots are there. It'll tell you like, okay, here's how many dudes are where they're at. And it'll also tell you what order you found them. So if you accidentally find the third bot in the level, you know you've missed two. After you beat a stage, you can buy a little radar thing for 200 coins. And I don't know why, but I definitely had way more coins than I could ever spend throughout the entire game. But you can buy this radar that will hint and basically beep and point at upcoming stuff. So if you are replaying a level, you can find all those hidden bots, because I had to play through each level 2 or 3 times, a lot of times, to find the extra puzzle pieces for more unlockables and costumes and stuff like that, and also to get enough bots to go against the next big boss. I heard a quote once that I really liked, which said that nostalgia is a luxury. There is something about if your life is awesome enough, if the games you've played are cool enough and stuff, that not just playing them is great, but looking back upon them is also great. Astro Bot again and again kept making me think of that, because this really is a nostalgia just buffet. I mean, the fact that it has stuff like, it has 150 different cameos. I've seen stuff like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon. I found Pyramid Head. I did a special mission that unlocked Leon Kennedy. All these little bots don't really serve a purpose, I guess. It's not like whenever I unlock them, suddenly I'm playing a special level of them. But something about this game, it pushes all those happy buttons at once. I've seen a bunch of people giving this 10 out of 10s and 11 out of 10s and saying it's the best game ever, and I'm kind of inclined to agree. It's cool, especially because there are some completely themed levels, and those are definitely my favorite. Now, these are typically at the end of each of the universes. There's one for Ape Escape and God of War and Uncharted and a bunch like that. Loco Roco. Oh my God. I'm loving this because, as a person that's played hundreds and hundreds of PlayStation games at this point, even just conquering all these exclusives and stuff, there is a crazy amount of PlayStation history that I feel like at times PlayStation themselves does not acknowledge. They don't have much of a back catalog. Like, you can hate on freaking Nintendo all you want, but at least Nintendo is constantly acknowledging their legacy. They constantly give us offerings of retro games and throwback stuff, or remasters or remakes or re-releases. This feels like a cool slush, a gigantic smoothie of all my favorite PlayStation flavors, and that's so cool. Now, I will say, one thing I feel like they kind of cheated on is, before release, they said, hey, this is going to have like 80 different levels you can play on. That's kind of true. Like, I'm not even insulting them, but saying that feels like a bit of bending the truth, because there's pretty much like 60 real levels, and then there's like 20 challenge levels. These are like singular objective, very, very tough levels. The main missions are pretty easy. I found the bosses to be a bit challenging. They usually take me 3 or 4 tries, but the challenge levels are actually hard, and they have like a singular thing where there's no checkpoints. It's just, hey, do all these jumps perfectly and you get a bot at the end. If you want to 100% complete it, it takes about 15 to 18 hours. Even if you do that, a lot of these challenges, I think that's the one thing that's going to hold you up, but counting those as levels, I do feel like that's kind of bending the truth a bit, but I like so much about this game. It's just cool to constantly be just setting down the controller and thinking about how much they managed to get right. I love the goofy abilities, I love all the references, I love all the cool stuff, and more than anything else, it's just fun. Like, sometimes I feel like we forget that, especially in our hunt to try and make video games an art form, or that obsession with telling big epic stories or trying to copy Hollywood movies with interactive films. I like the fact that Astro Bot feels like the kind of game that you would play with this controller. Do you get what I mean? It feels like the kind of game where the fans, the players, the developers, the entire ecosystem is just about the singular mission of blowing your mind. I love this game. I've played so much of it already. I am going to 100% it. I want to find every single collectible, and even after freaking conquering it, I just want to keep playing more. I almost want to start a new save file and show my girlfriend and be like, look how freaking cool this is, because she grew up playing Spyro. I grew up playing Crash Bandicoot. I feel like she would lose her mind as to how good this is. They just nailed it. But I am ready for that first big update as well. They did say there's going to be a first patch that introduces like time trials or something, so I'm already definitely curious to see some leaderboards of people that are much better than me, beating the heck out of everybody. If I could have any complaint about it, I do actually have one, and it is a legitimate complaint from a personal standpoint. So consider this like a buyer beware thing, where I'm not going to dock the points, but I have a little bit of a photosensitivity. I do not like shaking screens, and I don't like blinking lights. I don't have like epilepsy, but it kind of irks my vision. I'm not a huge fan of it. And so in any game, 99% of games now have an option to reduce screen flashes or reduce screen shake. This has like no options menu, like at all. Like literally it just says, hey, how do you want to format the controller? And that's pretty much it. The lack of an options menu, maybe it's hidden somewhere, not in the typical options spot, but personally, that did feel like a bit of an oversight. So if the developers happen to see this, please reduce screen shake option, especially in some of those boss fights where they're smashing blocks and throwing you all over the place. I was a little bit doing this. But these are just some off-the-cuff thoughts. Did you play Astro Bot? Please buy this game. Look, I feel like people are getting really annoyed because PlayStation is dumping so many hundreds of millions of dollars into live service games and stuff with battle passes and microtransactions. If you want to beat that, if you want to finish off Astro Bot and make sure this is the kind of game that they make more single player fun, goofy stuff with a shorter development cycle, please buy this game, vote with your wallet, show them that single player is still profitable. And also just to support Team Asobi, this game is so good. All of their games are so good. Please buy the game, support it. If you have a PlayStation 5, I definitely think it's worth the price, 100%. But what do you guys think about it? Have you played Astro Bot in the past? Are you excited for it? I platinumed the Astro Bot on the PlayStation 5, the Astro's Playroom, and I'm definitely going to platinum this. But thanks for watching. And if you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And please keep dreaming. I'm just grinning like an idiot, man. They just nailed it, man. Like, I know it's been 30 years of PlayStation, but what a perfect time. I'm sure they did it on purpose, but releasing this for the 30th anniversary, brilliant choice. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.